Good thing is in yay, I get the zoo to myself. Or bad thing is in there are no animals out because it's cold out. We'll see what happens. So the zoo. The zoo was fun, but I got lost several times and it was very cold. And for the first, I would say 15-20 minutes or so, I'm pretty sure I was the only person in there. There was one other couple, but there was no signs of life anywhere. And that includes the animals because none of the animals were out. Entering Elephant Valley, which anyone who knows me knows that the only relevant animal in my mind at the zoo are the elephants. And I cannot wait. Growing up, I remember this was one of my favorite exhibits. Oh, yeah, a little tent. Talking about the elephants. Which is neat. But, the elephants are not out. Sad day. Sad day. We have bongos, which is a much bigger deal because I've walked by like 5 exhibits and haven't seen anything. I'm gonna go find the more Arctic animals, the ones that are probably used to this colder weather. The Ravenclaw in me is very excited right now. We have some bison, and he's looking right at me. It's a little unsettling. Okay, that's better. We have an elk just chilling about. Looks like there's his lady friend over there. Yay! That's not snow you're seeing falling on me. That's hail. Oh, little angels. I think they're trying to hide from the hail. Oh, poor guys. Or there's food right there, but I don't think there is. I think they're honestly trying to hide from the hail, which it just picked up, so I'm gonna keep going. And I'm officially lost. I thought I was heading in the direction of the lions, but went in a circle and I am right back where I started, so I'm gonna try a different path. And of course, there is not a map anywhere around me to tell me where I'm at. Good. There's a stray peacock, guys. Just straight chilling. Overall, I only spent about 2.5 hours there. I kind of just picked and chose the things I wanted to do and see. I really didn't want to spend all day there, but easily you could spend all day at the Prague Zoo. I would actually plan on making it an all-day event. If you have a day to spare and you don't know what to do, I do recommend going to the Prague Zoo. They do allow dogs, so if you're traveling with your dogs, you are more than welcome to take your dog there. There are certain parts that your dog can't go, but yeah, you can bring your dog. It's a fun time. Other thing that I did was I was taking the tram back into town. I was gonna go to a place called Bohemian Bagel for a quick brunch, and I noticed where the tram left me off, where I did switch trams, was actually right by Letna Park. So I went and I saw the Metronome. The Metronome is where the statue of Joseph Stalin used to be. Now, it was there during the communist reign, and then it was knocked down, and the Metronome was placed there instead. So I went, I saw that, took a very quick walk just up there and came back down. I didn't walk around the park. I have been to Letna several times. And so then I went on my next tram, went to Bohemian Bagel and had a quick brunch. Highly recommend Bohemian Bagel. They have amazing food. It's a really good breakfast place if you're kind of looking for more an American style breakfast, or just really good bagel sandwiches. Highly recommend them. And then I just got lost in the Campo Park area, walked around, saw some different areas that I used to go to, and just walked around, saw things. I did go into it's Our Lady Victoria's Church. I went to the church where the Jesus is. Prague has a famous Jesus. It's like a baby Jesus, and he wears different robes for different occasions and holidays in the Christian calendar. So I went and I saw that. I don't know the full history of it. I should, but I don't. I just know that it's a big deal. And then I went to the Museum of Man-Made Music, I think is what it was, or the Museum of Czech Music, something like that. Music Museum by Campo Park and in Charlesbridge area. Went there, and it's a neat little museum. It's not too long. There are some interactive portions. It is more geared towards the history and creation of these instruments. And then after that, I was supposed to go to another museum, decided I'd had it with museums and I just didn't want to go to another one. So walked across the Charles Bridge, walked around that area on the other side, closer to Old Town. I tried to find a vintage store that my friend Melissa and I used to go to. I could not find it. I found a different one that is not a vintage store at all. It's actually, well, it is a vintage store. It's not a vintage clothing store. It was all vintage instruments, which is great, but I can't bring back a cello home in my suitcase. But yeah, so overall today was wonderful. Tonight I am going to a restaurant called Clearhead, which is a vegetarian restaurant, and then I'll probably also try to check out a couple other shops, maybe go to a Manufactura tonight, or try to find a different secondhand clothing store, but we'll see. Ended up finding a little park. That's one thing I really miss about Prague is how, me and my friends, we would come down here and we would just wander and we would find a park like this and call it a day and just, walk around and maybe find a bench or a cafe and get a coffee. But, we don't have little parks like this in the States. I mean, at least not where I'm from. It's just something I miss a lot is just coming outside, walking around, finding a place like this. So yeah. Right here we have my favorite bookstore. We're about to go inside. It's one of the greatest ones I've ever been in. Just so many books. So I am inside one of my favorite bookstores. This is actually the bottom floor of it. It's Shakespeare and Son, I believe. But my friend Melissa and I found it one December. We were just walking around town, and I was actually about to go have surgery. I was kind of nervous, so her and I went down for a walk. But yeah, this is, like I said, the bottom floor. The first floor has an insane amount of books in it. It's just wall-to-wall books. best dinners of my life. I went to a restaurant called Clearhead. I will also link them down below. It is a vegetarian restaurant, and they have the best food there. I had grilled goat cheese with like walnuts and rosemary and potatoes au gratin underneath it and some spinach. Oh my god, it was the greatest thing ever. I had originally gone there when I was still in high school with my voice coach and then 2 of my classmates, so that the 4 of us went. And I knew I wanted to go back, but I do not remember the food being that good. I remember being phenomenal. I do not remember it being that amazing. And I think part of that is just because I am now a vegetarian, so I'm not used to the struggle of having to pick something. I'm usually just told what I'm gonna have when we go out, but it was amazing. Probably gonna go there again tomorrow night, but not tonight because I have other plans. So I woke up and I went to Prague, which it's a castle on a different side of Prague. I had never gone there before, and I wish I knew it existed because I wanted to spend more time there and I wasn't able to. But basically what it is, it's a castle very similar to the Prague Castle, where it's a fortress basically, and there's just different things inside of it. And in there's the casemates, like the tunnels that go underground, and the 6 of the original Charles Bridge statues are underground there, being preserved and kept. So that's where I went today. So I'm exploring a new part of town today. I've never actually been over here before. It took me a little while to get my bearings straight and figure out where I'm going, because where I'm going is not on Google Maps. But I figured it out. And yeah, I'm gonna check out Gothic Cellar. I'm leaving the village and the fortress now. The cellars and the casemates were so cool. I mean, I wish I had more time to spend in this village. It's so beautiful. Fortunately, I do have a few other things I wanted to accomplish today, but definitely gonna put a pin in this for the next time that I come here. I definitely want to spend at least a half a day here and just explore all the things. And then I went to Dvorak's museum, which it's in a villa. He did not actually live in said villa. If you don't know, he was a composer, and I wanted to go there because I had performed a few of his compositions. So it was kind of special for me to go. So right now I am at the museum of the composer Dvorak. This wasn't his actual house. He lived in a flat somewhere nearby. But currently in the gardens, just taking a look-see around. He did live somewhere nearby, I don't quite know where, but yeah, this villa is dedicated all to him, and it's stunning on the inside. It's a very small museum, and there was a school group in there, so I didn't get too many photos inside, but it's still a gorgeous place. Gorgeous place. And then I decided I really wanted to explore the Jewish quarter, because that was something that I had really wanted to do, and I never had the opportunity to do it while I lived here. I mean, I probably did have the opportunity, I just never took the opportunity to do it while I was here. So I did the Jewish Museum of Prague. I think that's the name of it. There we go. Yes, it is the Jewish Museum in Prague. Now, the Jewish Museum of Prague is compiled of 6 things. yes, 6 things. It is the Mazel Synagogue, the Pincus Synagogue, Clausian Synagogue, the Old Jewish Cemetery, the Ceremonial Hall, the Spanish Synagogue, and then you can also visit the New Old Synagogue. I did all of them except for the New Old Synagogue because I'd already been to the New Old Synagogue. Pause. Well, it's not in here, so we'll say it was the New Old Synagogue. I had already been inside there. When I was living here, we did a tour and we went inside. It is time for the loaded question of, is it appropriate to take photos in religious places of where you are visiting? Here is my thoughts on the matter. If I had to pay to get in, or if there is a museum or exhibit, something of that nature inside of it as a part of it, or if the entire thing has been turned into that, that is my cue to ask, hey, am I allowed to take photos in here? If there's no one to ask, then no, I do not take photos. But even if the answer is yes, I try not to be obnoxious about it. It's still considered a holy place to some group of people, whether they are present at the time that you're there or not. It's still a holy place. It's still a place that deserves respect, even if it's not of my religious beliefs or of my practices. It means something to someone. The museum is, like I said, it's in those different synagogues and buildings. So you first go into the Mazel Synagogue and you see life of the Jews in early Bohemian lands. Those were the 10th to 18th century. Then you go into the Pinksova Synagogue, or the Pincus Synagogue, and this is a memorial to the victims of Shoah from the Bohemian and Moravia regions. And I didn't film in that one. I filmed in one portion of that one, but the reason why I didn't film in that one is the entire synagogue is painted with the names of the people that were deported from their homes during World War II. It was probably the hardest place I went to today. And then on the second floor there are more names, but there are also paintings and drawings for the children of Terezin. If you don't know what Terezin is a ghetto and concentration camp just outside of Prague. I have gone there when I lived here, but it's where a lot of the propaganda was filmed. They have these drawings from children, and one of the teachers, chaperones, watchers of the children had them draw pictures every day, and it's so sad to see how the changing of them. You'll see some that are really dark and just depressing and maybe just done in one medium, like just in pencil. And then you see some that are like super bright and colorful and how they want to go home to Palestine and like dreams that they have in life before the war and what life could be like after the war. And it's a step inside of a child's imagination and a child's articulate thoughts. It's every time I see those drawings, it means a lot to me. It hits me in a hard spot. I did accidentally crash a tour group. Second time today. I didn't realize that he was a tour guide. I thought he legitimately worked in the museum, and a couple just asked him a question because he was standing in one room and they were in the room with the drawings. And they came out and were like, it's amazing that these drawings were preserved. He had said the teacher of these children that would have them do these drawings, she knew that if she took them with her when she was deported, they probably wouldn't survive. So what she did was she had every single drawing compiled into 2 suitcases, and she put them all into those suitcases, and that's how they were saved. That's how we were able to keep them, and they were found afterwards. And after you go through that synagogue, you go into the old Jewish cemetery. Now, the cemetery it's not that big, but it feels like it just keeps going and going. Now, it's quite high up, the cemetery. You do have to go up some steps and a ramp to get up there. And when you walk outside, I mean, it goes pretty close up to the height of the wall. There are multiple layers to that burial ground and that cemetery. It's just tombstones on top of each other, and oh my gosh, it was hard. But it's interesting to see because you have these really simple tombstones combined with these crazy, beautifully ornate and large tombstones. It's shocking. And to me, it kind of represented, you know, we might come from different backgrounds, we might have different wealths, but we're all going to the same place. We all have the same fate in the end. And that was just a big visual representation of that for me. So after that, you go into the Clausen synagogue. This was the Jewish customs and traditions. So in this one, I believe this was the one that we learned about, like bar mitzvahs and birth, weddings. We also learned about holidays, so Purim, Sabbath, Passover, Hanukkah, the holidays, things like that. And then afterwards you go into the Great Ceremonial Hall, which was Jewish Customs and Traditions Part 2. Last on the list of things that you can go and do is the Spanish synagogue. The other synagogues were just very, not minimal, but they were very simple, decorated with a purpose almost. You know, if it was important, it had more decoration. If it wasn't as important, it maybe had a little bit of less decoration. But then the Spanish synagogue, the entire thing is just decked out. I mean, this was like one of the cathedrals I had gone into. One thing that I really loved the difference of between the synagogues and the cathedrals that I went to were the cathedrals were just over the top. The synagogues brought you back down to earth and down to why you're really there, and that is to worship. The Spanish synagogue just went all out and was just a explosion of beauty and decoration, and it was very ornate, very pretty. That one talked about Jews in more of a modern time. So Franz Kafka, this was where they touched on how they have those collections. The museum existed before World War II. I want to throw that out there. A lot of the pieces in the museum, no matter which synagogue or which part you're in, do have a note that says collection from, and it'll have a place. I'm just going to read to you what it says on the website. The Jewish Museum Association was abolished in the autumn of 1939 following the Nazi occupation of Czechoslovakia and the establishment of the Protectorate of Bohemia Moravia. I think I pronounced that right. Its collection was taken over by the Prague Jewish community, which, on the basis of an initiative from Karl Stein, head of the Department for Rural Affairs, prompted the founding of a Central Jewish Museum in 1942. The Nazis approved the project after lengthy negotiations, although they had completely different aims than the founders. Under the cover name Museum, the Central Jewish Museum became a safe haven for objects, books, archival documents from the Jewish communities during the duration of the war. And these were the Jewish communities that were deported and basically destroyed. Where was I? Okay, thanks to the efforts of the art historian and chief curator Josef Pollak and his colleagues, the institution operated on a completely professional level, creating the basis for the work of a present-day museum. And then I ended up going to the City of Prague Museum, which was kind of a spur of the moment. I wasn't planning on doing that. I was a little disappointed because I could have spent more time where I was this morning, but that's okay. But I went to the City of Prague Museum, and that was so cool because it went back to like the Stone Age and prehistory and all that stuff, like before, things you don't typically hear about and learn about. And for me, it kind of reminded me of a museum that you would have in your hometown. You know, don't get me wrong, like I learned about prehistoric things like Ötzi and you know, we learn about ancient Greece and Rome, but I never really learned about what Central Europe was like way back in the day. So it was cool to go and see that. I don't have too many photos or videos from that just because lighting. I highly recommend that one. I'm going to link that one down below. Kind of an off the beaten path thing. And I'm not done yet because tonight I'm going to the jazz dock, and I love the jazz dock. One of my teachers used to perform here, and that's kind of how I found out about it. I'm going to see a Czech jazz group, and I'm very excited for that. And the jazz dock, it's just a nice little venue. It's fun. It's very it's small, very quaint, but it's a wonderful time, and I'm very excited to go. Yeah, I love the jazz dock. Jazz dock, it's just a nice little place to go and hang out. So the jazz dock last night was so much fun. It was a really nice group, and they played about 2 hours with a short intermission. And yeah, I had a couple of drinks, I had some food, listened to some phenomenal music, and it was just nice, and it wasn't crowded. The show wasn't sold out, so there wasn't too many people there, so I just went, listened to some music on the river, and had a great time. It's a very calming and relaxing spot, and it's such a great idea. The jazz dock is one of my favorite places. Today though, today's a very unique day. I am going to where I grew up and where I lived. I'm going to go see my school. I'm going to kind of take a little bit of a walking tour as to things I used to do. Right there, that was my house, that back one. I'm walking the pathway I used to walk to get to school. I'm going to do a mildly abridged version just because I want to go, well, not an abridged, an extended version is a better term, because I'm going to go stop by one of my friends' houses and see if I remember where that was. There's my school. It's a giant building, like, it's huge, and it goes back further, like past where those colored squares are on the right-hand side, it goes even further back. Yeah, it's huge. What else did I do? Oh, and I went to go see some monuments because, you know, they were free to go see, and I wanted to just wander around the city, so I went and I saw the monument for World War II, I saw the Airmen Monument, and then I also went to the monument for the victims of communism. Now, the reason why I wanted to go see the victims of communism monument today is because today's a pretty significant day. Now, I didn't realize this when I booked my trip. I was actually in a restaurant on my phone planning out my next day, and I found online that today, being January 16th, is the 50th anniversary of a student named Jan Palash, and I'm sure I'm saying his last name wrong, and I do apologize. But on this day, 50 years ago, he lit himself on fire in protest against communism. I didn't realize that this was the date. I mean, I learned about it and I knew it in the back of my head, but I never connected the dots that today was the day that this was happening. So it's fitting that I am here, and I'm very, very glad I get to experience tonight. So starting yesterday, they had a exhibit set up for him in Wenceslas Square. That is where he did his protest. He died a few days later from his burns. He does have a memorial in Prague. I did not get a chance to go see that, but I'm going to experience a very special memorial today where we're going to walk as it was when he passed through Wenceslas Square into Old Town, and that's happening tonight. So I'm glad I get to experience this. This is something very unique and something very Czech, something very home-hitting here, and I don't know, I'm lost for words right now. Yeah, so I'm gonna go do that, I don't know what I'm gonna do the rest of the night, but I'm definitely gonna go do that. So the memorial last night, it was very special, and I'm very glad I was able to be a part of it. They did have, now I don't speak Czech, but from what I gathered, from what I did understand, they did have a student from Charles University speaking at the event. Actually, I'm gonna grab my. The service was really nice. There were thousands of people there for this. I mean, it was remarkable. It was incredible. It was incredible. Now they had all different people talking about him, about his life. Again, I don't speak Czech, so I'm not sure, but what I saw were people that had a huge sense of pride for their country, which is something that was very unique to see. And then we did march, much like people did when he did pass away and for his funeral. And it was very similar to the march that was done in 1989. Only at that time, the Velvet Revolution had not happened yet, so that march turned into a protest. But it was very special to be here 50 years later to witness that. All right, my Prague journey has come to an end. I'm sad to be going home, but I'm also excited. I don't know when I'll return, but I do know that I will return. I have more things on my list more things added that I need to do. There were 2 things I didn't get a chance to do, mostly because of time, but that's okay. There's always next time, and I can't wait to come back. I'm so excited. I'm so excited to come back. So yeah, until the next adventure, I'll see you guys soon.